Paul, thanks for joining me. What do you make of what Senator Robert Menendez said? Is it a good idea to keep up this pressure right now?
It is not a good idea to add more sanctions. The senator is quite correct that the existing sanctions are one of the major ingredients in the Iranian calculus and why they are sitting down at the negotiating table. It does not follow from that, however, that adding more sanctions to the mountain of sanctions that are already in effect is the way to close the deal. The way that sanctions or any other kind of pressure achieves its purpose of getting concessions we want from the other side is twofold. There are two things you need, Christine. One is, if there's no movement at the negotiating table from the other side, we keep the sanctions in place. But the other, just as important, is to persuade the other side that if they do make the kind of concessions that we want, it's part of a package in which sanctions come off. So I think one of the main problems of the idea of adding still more sanctions is it simply adds to the perception, which is already pretty prevalent in Tehran. It's a suspicion that none other than the supreme leader holds, that we in the United States aren't really interested in an agreement. We're interested in regime change, and that we're using the negotiations to stall for time while the sanctions cause more and more damage on Iran. And if that's the case, they simply have no incentive to concede anymore.
Well, let me ask you this, because you heard Senator Menendez say what would be required of Iran in order to get sanctions relief. He talked about suspension of the program, all sorts of rollbacks. Clearly, the West needs to have full transparency and full assurances regarding its intentions. But the conditions that Senator Menendez had laid out there, do those seem to you to be the conditions that the Obama administration, the P5+1, have put on the table right now?
We have to be crystal clear at the distinction between one or the other side, either the U.S. or Iran, taking some unilateral action versus something that's part of a package. So what is reportedly part of the package that I hope, indeed, the U.S. and its negotiating partners are considering does involve significant sanctions relief tied explicitly to, as part of a proposed deal, the kinds of restrictions on the Iranian program that we're looking for. I don't think either side, either the Iranians or the U.S., should be looking for a unilateral move from the other side. We would not expect the Iranians to expect from us to simply start taking sanctions off unilaterally, and we should not expect from them to simply start stopping aspects of their nuclear program unilaterally. It has to be part of a negotiating package, and that's what's going to take place over the negotiating table.
And you say that anybody who wants to avoid an Iranian nuclear weapon should avoid giving the Iranian hardliners more ammunition. What do you mean by that?
We have hardliners on both sides of this. We have our own that we have to contend with over here, and certainly President Rouhani, and I would say not just President Rouhani, but the Supreme Leader himself, have to deal with hardline sentiment in Tehran. I think you already alluded, Christine, to the statement that the Ayatollah made just 3 days ago, which was widely and correctly interpreted as an admonishment to his own hardliners to give negotiations a chance. So we're hearing it right from the guy at the top. He supports the negotiating effort of President Rouhani and Foreign Minister Zarif. He also expressed skepticism, which refers to what I was talking about a moment ago, an uncertainty in Tehran as to whether the United States really does want an agreement. But he's telling his own hardliners, give negotiations a chance.
And we'll see how it all works out in Geneva this round. Paul Pillar, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
My pleasure.